Hello and welcome back to the SKUSavvy YouTube channel. Today we are going through the onboarding. So if you're new to SKUSavvy, it is a full warehouse management system designed to organize the warehouse and improve your fulfillment speeds when using Shopify. So if you haven't already, make sure to go over to the login or sign up page and create a new account with SKUSavvy. After you create the account, you're going to be taken into the home interface here, where you can head over into the Shopify Connection, enter your store handle, and install the app. So this is going to take you over into Shopify so that we can go ahead. Well, I guess we already had that set up. Actually, it's already installed. So now we have our Shopify Connection pulled in. And at this point, we can create either a new location, as in a new warehouse, or we could reassign an existing warehouse within SKUSavvy to one of our Shopify locations. So I'm going to use the locations that I've already got here. And then we're just going to tap integrate, which is going to begin the process of bringing over locations and either creating or connecting those with your warehouses, products, and inventory. So as you can see, our products have already imported here. So we can see those. And now if we click into a product, we can also see that this has been connected with our Savvy Coffee Co. So we could just tap on this and it will bring us directly into the Shopify page, where we can now open this product, and anywhere that you see the store tag, you can do that. Orders, products, locations, customers, etc. So now we have that connected, and we can see our products within here. Now what we're going to do is go over into the settings. So head into dashboard and then settings, and we're just going to get this set up so that you can run your store. This first one is going to enable us to fulfill orders without having to have a carrier label produced. I'm going to leave the rest of these. We'll ignore the label messages for now. I've added a few adjustment reasons here, your own customized adjustment reasons. We can enable bin-to-bin replenishment. We have kitting turned on. I'm going to leave packaging inventory tracking off. We will retain our empty record. So that's going to, when we get down to 0, that is going to retain the record. If you turn this off, it will just get rid of 0 inventory values. Let's see. I'll leave the rest of these as they are. I've turned on ABC analysis. In barcode scanning, I'm actually going to turn off the scans for now, just for demo purposes. But this is obviously where you would turn on different requirements for scanning. So this might be a scan of the bin or a scan of the item during the pick, as well as during the pack. So depending on what you want to use for barcode scans, that's going to determine what we are required to scan. Here, I'm going to leave the webcam scanner turned on. As for barcodes, this is an important one. You just want to set this up to the barcode format that you're going to use. Now, I am going to actually leave on the automatically generate barcodes because my products don't have barcodes yet. If you did already have barcodes on Shopify, those are going to come in at the time that you import your products. So we'll turn that on. I'm going to leave my default units here. We are going to ignore international for now. I'll leave purchase order management turned on. We'll come back to check-in criteria. Transfers, I'm going to turn these on, and I'm going to leave all of these settings on. Our cycle counts, I'm going to turn on cycle counts. Data retention, we'll ignore that for now. Okay, so let's go ahead, update these settings here. Now, I should also point out that, here we go, we have our settings already updated. I should also point out that you can go over into test mode, which if you're using a development store or you're still testing your live store, you can turn this on, which will bring over test orders. You can still affect inventory. So be careful about test mode. You can still update inventory back to Shopify, but that will be good for test orders. So we'll leave it into the regular mode that we're here. We've got our settings all made up here. Now let's go over into templates. And here I've already produced a bin label template, but just to show you a little bit of the interface. Now, if I wanted to, so I've added some text here. As you can see, all you need to do is just simply come in and add your components. And so I'm actually going to add some spacing, and we'll put our row into the spacing here. And let's add some padding on top. So, okay, we've got our label. Now we can print bins to this. You do, for the most part, have all the labels that you're going to need are already there as defaults. As you can see on our templates, we do have a bunch of default templates. So to get started quickly with one of these, you would just simply come over and copy the template. You can see what the template actually looks like here. So you can fully customize purchase orders, packing slips, different action barcodes that are during fulfillment. We can make our own custom pickup labels or our own custom shipping labels, etc. So get at least, typically I like to make a bin label, but there is defaults as well. So we'll leave that as is. And now what we're going to do is go over into the carriers. So on our carriers section, we are using ShipStation API behind the scenes. You do not need to get a ShipStation account. So this is set up for you at the time that you sign up to SKUSavvy. So what we're going to do is come into the carriers, go over to modify carriers, and this is going to open up the Ship Engine dashboard, which is now ShipStation API. So you'll agree to the terms, continue here. Now at this step, you only need to enter your information here if you are planning to use the group rate ShipStation USPS account. So if you're not planning to use that, if you have your own other shipping accounts, whether it's USPS or another carrier, you can ignore this. So I'm going to set this up later, and we'll set this up later. Boom. Okay, so now we are in our ShipStation API, which is already connected with our SKUSavvy account. Again, you do not need ShipStation. In fact, most of the time you're going to be getting rid of ShipStation if you already have it in favor of this. Here, what we would do is go ahead and connect our carrier accounts. So we'll just go over to connect my accounts. Now you're going to search for the carrier that you are connecting, and based on what you're actually going to connect, you're just going to tap into here and get the carrier information that you need in order to connect this account. So you'd enter that here, tap on connect, and this is going to enable the carrier within your account. So once you have your carriers connected, now let's go back over into our SKUSavvy account. Once you have those connected, you may need to refresh the page, but your carriers are going to come over into here. So let's go ahead. I'm just going to refresh the cache just to pull in any kind of new information that we have. And next up, in terms of the setup, we should go ahead and add some packaging. So as you can see, I've already got a bunch of different packages within here. You would just simply go over to create. Now, if there is a carrier that already has a specific package type, you can use that here. And that would just automatically fill in the information for you. So that's specific to a carrier if that's the type of packaging that you're using, and you would want to use that here. Otherwise, you would just simply create your own customized packaging there. So because I'm not tracking any inventory, we don't need to adjust the packaging. If you are going to track your packaging inventory, then once you get into the warehouse, you're going to head over into the packaging and add some kind of inventory for this packaging. All right, so one more thing on the setup, I suppose, is staff accounts. You get as many staff accounts as you need. So go ahead and head it into the invite and add the permission set for the particular staff account that you want. So we'll add them here. They're going to get an email, and then they can go ahead and set their password and be able to log into the system. So one other thing, I keep saying one other thing, but we've got vendors. So your vendors have come in from Shopify. So if you've already got vendor information there, those would have pulled into your SKUSavvy account, and they would already be assigned to that vendor with the unit costs that you had on Shopify. Now you may need to come into the properties of the vendor and update this. So as you can see, I don't actually have a shipping location. Let's go ahead and enter a location here on the vendor in Austin. Okay, so we've entered in our vendor information. Now I'm also going to add an email. So let's just do savvy@coffee.com. Wouldn't that be a great domain? And we'll enter a phone number, and we'll enter an account number. Okay, so I'm also going to turn on the communication preference. This enables you to send an email at the time that you're creating a purchase order to your vendor. They'll be able to see what you're trying to order, click into the order, and actually make adjustments, make notes, and send that back to you for confirmation. So I'm going to turn on the email communication preference, and we'll update this now. So we've got our vendors all set up. Okay, so we're pretty much ready to go. Now what we're going to do is head over into the warehouse, and we're going to start setting this up. Now, one quick note on the warehouses. So you can see here, this has already been, these two warehouses were the ones that we aligned on the connection with Shopify. These have a Shopify store tag indicated here. This one is not. So anything that we do in this warehouse is not actually going to sync back to Shopify, and we could use that in a variety of different ways. If you need to add another location, just head over to Create Warehouse. So let's go over into our warehouse. Now, one of the first steps here is to create the layout. This is going to be kind of our first beginning step after we've actually created the account. Now, here I've already set up a layout, so we will come back to this just to go through on how you actually use the layout interface. Your map is going to start something like this. Now, what you're going to do is tap Edit, and we can start building in the interface here. So you can add shelves or bins. The shelf is going to be this unit. The bin is corresponding and attached with a shelf. And then the bins hold all of the inventory. So in order to use inventory on SKUSavvy, you must have a bin that the inventory sits in. Now we'll go ahead and create a few more shelves on the map here. Just a very simple layout to demonstrate the point. Now, if I wanted to, you can make this any size. There is no specific unit here. Generally speaking, you want to try to make it bigger rather than smaller so that when you actually come on the pick or cycle counts, you can see what you're doing. Now, what I'm going to do is just go ahead and within the shelf, click and drag to make a bin. And then we'll make one more here. We can make these custom size. Whoops, I was outside of the shelf. So we're not going to spend a whole lot of time here. What I should also show is, so we can click and drag. Now we can move these bins around here. We can name them differently. We can see, so if we click on one, we can open up the information panel here and give this our starting dimensions, descriptions. We can see we don't have any inventory here. The fastest way to actually build your layout is going to be either get one shelf set up. If we go to the shelf, we can also adjust the names. So 1A, call this 1B. And now another easier way to do this, so we'll update this. And let's just say that we want to generate a whole bunch of bins on this one shelf. What we can do is come in, select the shelf, go down to bulk actions, and now we can just add our bins here. And we can also set a bin naming pattern. So you can see here the all different types of patterns to match what your bins are. And here, this is automatically using, so the bin and then level 1 and then position A from left to right. We could also switch these around. So let's say we wanted to go alpha. Oops. So we can see alpha, and then we might do level. So there we go. We can get our naming structure that exactly matches. So let's just say we add these bins and we're going to update this. Now what we could actually do here is come in and select the whole shelf and copy the shelf. You can also copy bins. But let's say that this shelf actually has multiple levels. What we would want to do is come over into the shelf details, and we can add some levels here. So now if we add levels, what we could also do is come in on the editor and generate more bins for each of the levels that we've got. So if we add 25 and then we update this, now what we're going to see is if we go over into the 3D mode, we can now see that we've got our shelves with a few levels there, and we can see our layout is starting to come together. Now you also do have on here, you could go ahead and let's just cancel that, turn out of 3D mode. So what you could also do on here is you can draw areas. So an area could just indicate our office space, a bathroom, fulfillment desks, and you can also draw your walls, and you can have doors on here. So that's a quick crash course on the layout builder itself. This does take a little bit of getting used to, but generally speaking, it goes pretty quickly. So what we'll do, we'll keep this as it is. Let's just update our shelf 2 to be shelf 3. And okay, we are now happy with our layout. Boom, we'll adjust these. And we'll add one more there just to complete things. And okay, cool. So we've got our layout. The next step after you have your layout is going to be to come over and print your bin labels. Now, I should preface that by saying you don't actually need to print out your bin labels, but it is going to give you a really nice starting point in the warehouse so that you can use the label barcode to come in and scan product into, or to scan the bin and see what's there, or to move stuff. It's going to be handy to have. Now, generally, if you are using racking, what you want to do oftentimes is to print the label out. So let's just go into our labels. And actually the easiest way, so you can print labels a few different ways. One would be you go into your bins and then just head up to print labels. And you can see here, we could select our own custom label and you can see the number of results that we're going to be printing. So if we wanted to, we could just print this page and that would print all of the labels that we've got here. Or we could come in and print just a single bin label here. So this is set to a larger size, but you would find your printer and select that, print your labels out. That's going to give you a barcode. So if we go into the bin, we can see here that SKUSavvy automatically generates a barcode for your bin. Now, the faster way to print these, or potentially the better way, you can do this a few ways. Let's say we wanted to print this whole entire shelf. I would just come in, select the shelf, go over to info, and down at the bottom, we can print all of our barcodes for this shelf. So that would print all of the bins that is currently on this shelf. So you can see we have our label that we've already created there. That would print all of them at one time, and we could go ahead, set that up, print those out. So, okay, we have now connected with Shopify. We got our carriers, some packaging. We've created a layout. So we're looking pretty good. Next step is to allocate the inventory. So this is really where the major step comes in. There are a few different ways that you can allocate your inventory. What you'll notice is that after you've connected with Shopify, your inventory has come in, but it is not yet assigned. So we can see that we have all of our inventory numbers over here that has come in from Shopify. Now, let's say along the process of getting set up with SKUSavvy, you're still making changes to your inventory on Shopify. What you should actually think of is SKUSavvy becomes the source of truth for inventory. Shopify is the source of truth for product information. So product and inventory are two separate things. You want to make product changes or add new product on Shopify first. That's going to come into SKUSavvy automatically in real time. And you should make inventory changes in SKUSavvy. Now, while you're getting set up, you can still make changes in Shopify. If you are making inventory changes in Shopify, what you're going to want to do periodically is come in and import the changes from Shopify. So you'd go over to resync the inventory. The origin in this case is going to be Shopify. And we're going to pull this in. Just type in override inventory in SKUSavvy. And then we could pull all of our new inventory changes that we've been making while we're getting set up into SKUSavvy. Once you actually get set up with SKUSavvy, ideally, there should be pretty much a lockstep with the inventory numbers. But if your SKUSavvy inventory gets more accurate, then what you can do is override the inventory in Shopify by selecting SKUSavvy as the origin here. So we have our inventory that's pulled in. Let's go ahead and make some allocations. So once we go into the inventory, the first way that you can start to use the inventory is actually through an import. So what we could do here is go over to our layout, the bins, and we could actually get an export of these bins here. And so we could get an export of all of our bin locations, and then we could fill in the inventory that we've got on a spreadsheet. So that is one way, which I'll actually show you a example of the spreadsheet here. Okay, so here I have an export of the bins that I have created in SKUSavvy. Now, one thing that you could do is to actually create on your layout, you could name your bins exactly how they are for your bin export if you've already got some kind of system with those bin names, and then assign the SKUs, or if you had your same bin names, then you could reuse that. If all the bin names are unique, all you need is the bin name. So I've gone ahead, I've created this export, and then I added my SKUs and inventory quantities. So the export that I get from SKUSavvy will have my bin name, level, quantity, if any, bin barcode, and shelf name. So we can use this to now import our inventory quantities over to SKUSavvy simply by going into the inventory and then import inventory. So if we click on this import, I will browse and grab my file here. And then as this is uploaded, what I'm going to do, I'm going to replace all the inventory for the items on this spreadsheet. It is not for a specific store, but if we had multiple stores, we could select the store there. And so as you can see, SKUSavvy has already aligned a few of these. Now I'm going to align the rest, and so we've got our shelf name, we have our bin name, we have our bin barcode, we have the quantity, and we have the SKU. So everything is ready for us to import. Now I've aligned those, and we'll go through to next. And as you can see, SKUSavvy has uploaded all of the information that we are importing here. We could override this. We could select a different product here, select a different bin. So all of this can be edited, and you will be limited to 10,000 rows at first, but you can do that in multiple steps. So we're going to go ahead, upload this, and that's going to import the inventory to our site. Now there is another method while this is getting imported here that we're going to go through as well. The second way that we could import our inventory or get our inventory in the system is by going into the flattened list view like I am here and go over to bulk allocate inventory. So what we're viewing here is the inventory that has come in from Shopify, and we're listed this as a unassigned inventory. And what we could do at this stage is actually simply walk up and scan the bin as well as scan the items. So as I scan an item and I scan the bin, this is going to select that information for me, and then we would be able to just simply allocate. So this is what we call a bulk allocation tool. Now, what you could also do if you're running a retail store and all of your inventory is just going to be in a single bin location is just check off all of the inventory and then simply allocate it to whichever bin it's going into, or the one bin for your retail store. And that would allocate everything into that one single bin. So this is a second method of getting your inventory into the system. This one is designed if you haven't actually counted inventory, if you don't have an existing system, to just simply use a barcode scanner, walk up to the bins that we already have labeled, and then scan the items and scan the bin and simply click allocate. The final method that you could use is just to simply allocate one at a time. Boom, go through here, find our product, scan the bin or select our bin location, and allocate the inventory right into the bin. That is certainly going to be the biggest setup step that you'll need to do in the system. Just to actually go back to the inventory import quickly. So what I did here is I got an export from Shopify. This is assuming that I don't have bins already labeled from an existing system. So I have my inventory spreadsheet here. I got an export of the bins from SKUSavvy, and I just put my SKUs on here. And you'll notice that some of these bins are duplicates. That's because I might have multiple SKUs in one single bin, or I might have a single SKU in multiple different bins. So you can set that up here. You would just simply use the bin name, level, or barcode if you have that information, and shelf so that you have it designated. So now let's go ahead. We will just bulk allocate some of the inventory here. So I'm going to put a couple of items away into a bin location. Boom, allocate this. And we'll just go down through here, allocate a few items to our bin locations. So I'm not going to go through all of this. What I will do is I'll import the spreadsheet, and then we're going to have some inventory in the system here. So if I cancel out of this, now we can see that we've got some inventory in here, and we are pretty much ready to rock. So the next step here, if we wanted to, just to go through how we would actually move this inventory. So if we messed up and we put it in the wrong bin, what you can do is come into the inventory. You can see where it is on the map here. And we would just go over to transfer this inventory into a new bin location, and we could select our quantity and boom, move this over into a new bin location. So here we've just allocated some quantity to a new bin. Now we're going to go through the orders side of things. So on the orders, let's go ahead And actually right now we don't have any kind of orders in, but as we start getting orders from Shopify, we'll see them appear. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and put through a few test orders and we'll see them come into SKUSavvy, and then we'll go through a fulfillment. Okay, so we have some test fulfillments, and as you can see, we have our orders. I have put the SKUSavvy into test mode, so we have our dev store orders pulling in. So we can see these have come in as unbatched shipments, and we can see on the outbound table, we have our orders with our tags. If we click into here, we can see the shipping method that our customer has selected, any kind of tags, the payment status. And at this point, we could go ahead and just simply fulfill this one order. So if we go in and we tap on fulfill, boom, this is going to ask us if we want to batch this order. We're just going to do the single fulfillment. So we'll go and tap on fulfill. And here we can see that we have the quantity that we need to go ahead and fulfill. We can see the bin location. And so all we need to do, because we don't have any kind of barcode scans turned on, is just simply tap on pick. Now, because it's only one item, it's not asking us how many we are actually picking. Then we can move ahead into the pack stage, where here we're going to go ahead and tap again, pack this up. If you're using barcode scanning, all you would need to do is just simply scan, whether you're scanning the bin or the item or just the item during fulfillment. You would just scan the item, and that's going to indicate that we have packed this up. We're going to select our box size here. Boom. So we'll package that up. We can see the order information here. And if you needed to make edits on the order, you could click on the store tag. That would bring you directly into Shopify. Or you can go over to view order and make edits directly within SKUSavvy. And these will be sent up directly to Shopify. So you can make order edits in either or place. So we've gone ahead, we've packaged this up. Now we've got our packaging here. And now we've got rates coming in from the carriers that we have connected. Now, if you're not getting rates, you may want to check the warehouse properties and just make sure that you have a phone number there. Also, make sure if you are in a test mode, you may not be able to turn on the test labels. So, SKUSavvy may prevent you from purchasing. If you're not getting rates still, make sure that the correct carriers are connected and turned on here within the batch settings. And if you're still not getting carriers, make sure that you go into the ShipStation API connection and just make sure that that is connected correctly. So as you can see, we have our rates, and what we could do here is just simply purchase the label, which is going to update that information back to Shopify. And at that point, our customer would be alerted and we are all set on the fulfillment. Now let's go into a few other methods of fulfillment. So as you can see, I still have some orders that are not yet fulfilled. And what we could do is to batch these orders together. So we're going to go over to batch the items. Now we could use pick to tote. There is a video on pick to tote, so I'll avoid that for now. But what we could do is batch this and set a shipment limit, an item limit. We could use order tags to batch by specific order tags. We could use our product tags, delivery methods, shipping methods. All of these different criteria could be saved, and we could use those on subsequent batches. So in this case, I'm just going to leave this open, and I'm just going to have the system batch these together just so that we can get an idea of what this looks like. Here, SKUSavvy has put all three of those orders together. So now when we go into the batch, we can see where we need to go and how many we need to pick. So if we wanted to go through here and pick these, again, I'm not using barcode scanning, but we certainly could use barcode scanning just by simply walking up, scanning either the item or scanning the bin and the item. So here we are indicating that we've picked these, and now this is going to take us through each of the items in our batch. So we're going to scan these, get our packaging. Later on, we could add dimensions to our products, and SKUSavvy will give us a recommended box size. As we can see, boom, we could just simply purchase the label, and that would go ahead and print out. And I don't believe this is going to enable us. Okay, so we have our test label there that has just printed out automatically, and we could also print our packing slip. So if we wanted to, boom, we could print that out. We can use our default packing slip template, and that would print out. We could also adjust this so that our packing slip prints automatically with the label as well. And here we're just going through each item in this batch, selecting our packaging, and we could also manually mark this as fulfilled. We could unpack this, put it back to the batch, and then if we had made an order edit and we might have the wrong quantity, we could go back and actually unpick this. or we can just continue and go ahead and go through each one of these items. Now, if we partially pack this up, whoops, let's unpack that again. If we partially pack this, we can split the order. We can add a box here. We can adjust the weight of the order. So lots of different things that you can do here. Let's go through another one just to indicate how this starts to work. Again, just packaging these up by tapping them or scanning them. We have our rates once we get packaging selected, and then we just go ahead, purchase the label, and that's going to update back to Shopify. All right, let's keep moving on, because now what we have done is we've depleted some stock. And so what we want to do is to go through the purchase order process. So on the purchase order side, we're going to go into the inbound. We're going to create a new purchase order. And here we're going to select our vendor. So our vendor in this case, let's select one that has some assignment already. So this vendor has come in from Shopify. It already has costs and products related. Now, if we didn't have any products related, we could uncheck vendor items, and this would just simply upsert the product with that vendor as we select it. So here we'll go ahead and select our vendor. We're going to set a delivery date, desired delivery date. We can add some tags here, metadata. We can notify the vendor, and we can turn on suggestions to get suggestions for quantities that we might need to purchase based on how fast our product is selling. So let's see, I guess we don't have any suggestions yet, but in the future, as we start using the system, SKUSavvy is going to calculate how many units we need to purchase based on how fast that product is selling, as well as the lead time from the vendor. So here we're going to go ahead, we will place a purchase order for a couple of quantities, and now we can see this assembling down below. So we can also update our unit costs here on this product, which will update the minimum, maximum, average, and last known cost of the item itself. We can also take notes on this item or notes on the purchase order. Let's go ahead, we'll create this. We could also add a custom item. So if you're dealing with landed costs or you have some other maybe packaging costs, etc., you could add those here. Let's create this purchase order. And now what we're going to see is when we go to check this in, we'll go to check in, mark it as delivered. And now we can see any kind of locations that we may already have this product in. So what we could do here, I'm actually going to turn off the scans. So I'll turn the scan off. We'll turn off the scan bin to allocate. We don't yet have a default item template, but if we had created a template, we could also print out the item barcode at the time that we're checking it in. So now that we have turned the scan off, now again, if you did have scans turned on, all you would need to do is just simply start scanning the item. So here I'm going to indicate that I'm receiving 4 units, and we're going to select the bin location. Again, I could just scan this if I'm using barcode scans. So here we'll select that location. Now that has been put away and counted and updated back to Shopify at this point. I am in test mode, so it's actually not going to affect any inventory levels here. But if we were to take this out of test mode, that would update back to Shopify. So here we'll just go through each item. And again, we're looking and seeing where exactly this item is located. So now we have checked in all the items on this purchase order, and all of our inventory would be updated, and we are ready to continue on with the process. So other things that we're not necessarily going to focus on in this specific demo, let me take this out of test mode here. Things that we're not going to focus on specifically for this demo: cycle counts, bin-to-bin replenishment automations, as well as stock replenishment automations. So actually, I'll just show you very quickly. If we were to go to an item and we turn on automated replenishment down here, we could set a min and max quantity. So these would be our par values. I guess we're going to need a little bit more. So we could set our min and max par values as well as a default lead time. And now when we go to this stock replenishment here, we'll reload the page. And this is going to show where our product actually is and how many units we might need to purchase to get back up to our max level. You could also import those min and maxes right from here. So you can upload a file with your min, max, average lead time, and a few other details there. I'll link to the imports. So we could also set up bin-to-bin replenishment. So if we have a product that's got multiple units around in different bins. We could set up movements between those from holding stock to pick stock. We could also set up directed put away. So if you have new product coming in all the time, you could set up directed put away based on the actual criteria of the product that's coming in. We could also do cycle counts. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, but very quickly, I'll just show you what it might look like if we were to count some product. So I'm going to assign this to myself here. We've now just created this cycle count. And as you can see, we have items in this bin location that all we need to do is just simply start scanning at this point, or we can tap on the item, enter a counted quantity, and update that within the system. I think we're going to wrap this here. Now you have a really good starting place for when you first come into SKUSavvy. What should you be doing? How should you get started? We've got our carriers connected. We have our product in there. We have Shopify connected with inventory. We've got a layout. We have our vendors. So everything is running in the system. And this is going to make things over time much faster for you to fulfill those orders, keep your warehouse organized. As for now, we look forward to seeing you on the next SKUSavvy video. And of course, welcome to SKUSavvy. We're excited to have you. Reach out with any kind of questions that you might have, support@SKUSavvy.com, or you can actually, in the system, bring up a new ticket here. We could add a ticket for a feature request, a bug, and that's going to come directly into our staff so that we can help you out. Looking forward to seeing you up and live soon. We'll see you on the next video.